If you're trying to decide what your next camera body purchase is going to be, then you are in the right place. Today, we're going to compare the Nikon D750 DSLR camera with the Nikon Z6 and Z6ii mirrorless cameras.
Hopefully by the end of this video, you'll have a great idea of which camera body is right for you and what your next photography purchase will be. But before we jump into that, we want to introduce ourselves.
I'm Hunter.
And I'm Sarah.
And we're Hunter and Sarah Photography, a husband and wife professional wedding photography team.
We are also educators, and our goal is to help photographers build strong foundations in both their business and their personal lives so they can run profitable and sustainable photography businesses.
Now, over the last 3 years, we've noticed a common theme. At some point, every new photographer is ready to ditch their first crop sensor camera and upgrade to a more professional full-frame camera body. The question is, which camera body is right for them in their particular place in their business?
Yeah, so just how every single business is different, which camera body is right for you, it depends on a ton of different factors. So our goal is to give you a balanced comparison of each of these three cameras and empower you to make the right decision on your own. So let's jump in.
So the first area we're going to look at, and the first couple areas, are really areas where these cameras are pretty much the same, where there isn't a real significant difference. And the first is the physical weight of these cameras. Now, these cameras are pretty much weigh exactly the same. Now, the DSLR, the old technology, is about 4 ounces heavier than the mirrorless cameras.
Which, for reference, 4 ounces is roughly the weight of a deck of cards. So it's not much.
Yeah, and if you're going to be using your mirrorless camera with your old DSLR f-mount lenses, you're going to need the FTZ mount adapter, and once you put this on, that 4 ounce weight difference is almost gone, which is why we consider the physical weight as an area where really all three of these cameras are tied.
Yeah. Another area where the cameras are basically tied is also the image sensor. So they all capture at 24 megapixels each. The mirrorless cameras do have two extra stops of high ISO at 24,000 and 50,000, which would only really be helpful if you're in an extremely dark setting.
So for reference, we went back and looked at the 70,000 plus images that we've delivered to our wedding clients over the last 2 years, and only 50 of them, not 50,000, but literally 50 of them have used an ISO above 10,000. So I wouldn't go out and buy a new camera just for an ISO setting that you're going to use in less than 0.1% of all your photos. So again, we more or less call this area a tie. Now, however, there are several areas where we feel like the mirrorless technology really comes out on top. The first is focus points and the touchscreen. So when you are using an old D750, you have 51 autofocus points, which is essentially the middle, like 20% or so of your frame. You can focus anywhere in that 20%, and a traditional non-touchscreen LCD. Whereas on the new mirrorless technology, you have 273 autofocus points. You can focus anywhere on your screen, anywhere in your field of view, from the very top corner to the bottom, middle, center, anywhere. If you can see it, you can focus there.
Yeah. And the other bonus is the fact that the LCD screen is a touch screen. So that's really helpful if you're short, like me, and shoot a lot with your camera kind of up above your head. It's really helpful so you can just turn your touch screen out, see what you're doing, touch, focus, and shoot. That is also helpful with the electronic viewfinder itself. So when you look through the eyepiece of a D750, you're essentially looking at a small mirror. Whereas when you look through the eyepiece of a Z6 or a Z6ii, you're essentially going to see your image for what it's going to be when you capture it. The settings will be in real time, all of that. It just is one of the biggest game changers when it comes to mirrorless cameras.
Yeah, honestly, this upgrade from DSLR to mirrorless in this area makes photography so much easier. It literally feels like you're cheating. Like, honestly, no more shooting test shots with your DSLR camera, looking at your LCD, having no idea why they look the way they are, frantically changing your settings and shooting and editing and, looking at them and figuring out what's wrong. All of that is over. Literally, you pull it up, you look in the viewfinder or on your LCD screen, and as you change your ISO or your shutter or your aperture, you're literally seeing those changes live on your screen or in your viewfinder. It is just gonna make your life so much easier. So that is a big area we feel like easy, hands down winner to the mirrorless technology. Now, kind of speaking of your shutter, when it comes to the mirrorless technology, you get a silent shutter. Now, while the old DSLR, the Z750, the D750 has a quiet mode or a quiet continuous, yeah, it's really quiet. It's quiet, slightly quieter compared to just shooting normally with the D750, but it's way louder compared to the literally silent shutter on the Z6 cameras.
There is one caveat with the Z6 and the Z6ii camera. You know, they're not without their technical difficulties. And that is that sometimes when you shoot in silent shutter, in side, in certain kinds of artificial light, you do get this kind of banding across your images. And that's easy to remove. You know, you just turn the silent shutter off and it's fine, but it is something that you do need to be aware of day of. Otherwise, you will ruin your images with that banding.
And even though that banding is really rare and is not every time you shoot inside, but just certain times, even though it's pretty rare, we still don't find ourselves using the silent shutter features all that often. So I would say this is a feature that we really only use during like the wedding ceremony, during the first look, any more kind of private, intimate moments where you really want to be unobtrusive. So technically it is a victory for the Z6 cameras, but I would say a pretty small victory, honestly.
Yeah. Another victory is the video quality for the Z6 and the Z6ii. While we don't shoot video and never have, the mirrorless cameras take much better video in much better video quality. The video specs are in the Hunter and Sarah Photography blog, which is linked in the description.
Now, there's another area, actually this is really the one area where we feel like all three of these cameras are actually totally distinct. So this is the memory card systems. Now, the D750 has two SD card slots in the side of the camera. For years, this was a great option because you had your one card and then your backup in camera. Now, when the Z6 came out, we were really excited about this new mirrorless technology. However, it only has one memory card slot. Now that memory card is an XQD or CF Express card. These cards are about twice the size of an SD card, like physical size, and they're made of metal, which means they are more reliable, they're less likely to break since they're not made of plastic, and they're way faster than an SD card as far as reading and writing files. However, the Z6 camera only had a single card slot, which just made us a little uneasy shooting, you know, those important wedding moments without the backup.
Yeah, so that is the one area where the Z6ii really distinguishes itself from the Z6. You know, we purchased one of the first Z6 cameras and we began using it immediately. It was a huge upgrade from the D750. But it only had a single card slot. You know, we're not going to use a single card slot on a wedding day. You begin backing up your images on the wedding day in your camera. So we weren't ready to shoot that. Whereas the Z6ii has a dual card slot system.
Yeah, so not only does the Z6 II have that same more reliable XQD card slot, it also has a second card slot for the SD card as an internal in-camera backup. So basically, when the Z6 II came out and was released about 2 years after the Z6, as far as we can tell, the specs are almost identical. It was pretty much the exact same camera, just with an extra card slot, but that was all that we needed to sell all of our other cameras and upgrade immediately to all Z6 IIs. Those dual card slots make all the difference on a wedding day.
Yeah. So, to summarize, if you're concerned with the camera's image sensor, the focus points, touchscreen, video quality, silent shutter, or the memory card system, the Z6 II is the obvious winner. However, there is one point where the D750 still distinguishes itself from the Z6 and the Z6 II, and that is cost.
Yeah, so if you were to go on eBay and look for a D750 used but in great condition, they're no longer being made by Nikon anymore, but if you wanted to get one used in great condition, you could probably get one for $800 or $900, definitely under $1,000 for one in great condition. Now compare that to a Z6, which is about $1,600 new as of today, or $2,000 for the Z6 II new as of today. But not only is that already like a $700 to $1,100 difference, but on top of those things, if you're upgrading from a DSLR system into the mirrorless, you have to go get the FTZ mount adapter because you want to still be able to use all your old lenses. Plus, you need to get XQD cards and an XQD card reader, which are more expensive. They're better, but they're more expensive. So once you factor in that extra $500 or $600, you're looking at less than $1,000 versus mid to even upper $2,000 range. It makes a big difference on price, and that's just the camera bodies.
Yeah, this big difference in price also applies to the lenses. You know, you can get a DSLR 85mm 1.8 for less than $500, whereas the Z mount 1.8 retails for $800. You know, likewise, if you purchase a brand new DSLR 50mm 1.8, you can get that for less than $200, whereas the Z mount equivalent is $600. That's 3 times the cost. So the good news is that the F-mount lenses will still work with the Z-mount cameras thanks to the FTZ adapter. So if you do choose to start with the D750 and start buying f-mount lenses, you can still use them if and when you upgrade to mirrorless one day in the future with the FTZ adapter.
So what does all this mean? What does all this mean for you and your business? And honestly, all three of these cameras are great cameras for certain people and in certain businesses. So here are the areas where each camera wins. If you need to upgrade to a full frame from a crop sensor and you just need to do it as soon as you possibly can and don't have a ton of money, then honestly, the D750 is still a great camera. We started our wedding photography career on the D750. We shot hundreds of thousands of frames, and those cameras, honestly, they're great. They're workhorses, they're reliable. We loved our D750s, and they're still a great option if you just don't have the money to spend on the mirrorless ecosystem yet.
Well, if you are ready for the mirrorless ecosystem, the Z6 is a great option for you if you don't shoot those, important once-in-a-lifetime moments like weddings. You can save a little money and just go straight for the Z6.
However, we feel really strongly that if you shoot weddings or other once-in-a-lifetime moments, you need the Z6 too because of that dual card stop. Full stop, we will die on that hill. We, like Sarah mentioned earlier, we take backup really seriously in our business because of how precious those moments are. So the last thing that we would want is for you to ever have a memory card failure and be stuck with a camera with one memory card slot. But honestly, the last few years have proven to us that mirrorless tech is very much the technology of the future, and DSLRs are kind of on their way out.
In the last 2 years, we've sold all of our DSLR cameras and replaced most of our f-mount lenses with their z-mount counterparts. We're totally sold on the mirrorless ecosystem and are in love with the quality of our Z lenses and tech.
Yeah, so at the end of the day, if your business is in a place where you just need to upgrade right away from that beginner camera, and you can't wait and save that extra $14 or $15 or $2,000, then honestly go with the D750 and use that to make more money and save up for that mirrorless technology a little bit further down the road. So guys, thank you so much for watching this video. We really hope that this has helped you figure out what the right camera body purchase is going to be for you and your business. Now, if you want an even deeper dive into these cameras, as well as a few other Nikon cameras that we mentioned, then go check out the more detailed written version of this video on the Hunter and Sarah Photography Education blog. The link is in the comments.
Whereas if you're ready to go ahead and just purchase one of these cameras, we would be honored if you would actually use the affiliate link below to purchase. The camera won't cost any more than it would normally through Amazon. The only difference is that we get a small cut as a thank you for making this video.
Yeah. Now, this video is just the first in a 10-part series that's all about camera gear for wedding and portrait photographers. So make sure you like, subscribe, turn on notifications, all that good stuff so that you don't miss any of our videos in this series.
Yeah, and if you want more helpful, free content for photographers, as well as a community of people who are also building their photography businesses, we'd encourage you to join the Hunter and Sarah Photography Education community on Facebook. The links for all of these things are below.
Well, that's it, guys. Thanks. We'll see you next week.
Bye.